Back with part 4 of this week's reading of the Messianic Jewish Family Bible, Tree of Life version, TLV, and we just completed chapter 40 of Jeremiah. And there is a threat to Gedaliah is appointed governor, but actually Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, wants to kill him. And actually Gedaliah is actually not believing Jonathan, son of Kareah, and Kareah is spelled Kareah. He's saying, "Don't do this thing," because he was actually going to avenge him before anything happened to him. And Gedaliah is saying, "No, don't do this. This is a lie. I'm not concerned about this." And we're going to be reading here in chapter 41, Gedaliah is assassinated. Now, it was in the 7th month that Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, son of Elishama, of royal descent of one of the chief officers of the king, along with 10 men, came to Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, to Mizpah. While they were eating bread there together in Mizpah, Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, rose up with the 10 men that were with him, and struck down Gedaliah son of Ahikam, son of Shaphan, with a sword, putting to death the one whom the king of Babylon had appointed over the land. Ishmael also slew all the Jews who were with Gedaliah at Mizpah, as well as the Chaldean soldiers who were found there. Now it was the next day after he had slain Gedaliah, when no one knew about it, that 80 men came from Shechem, from Shiloh, and from Samaria, with their beards shaved off, their clothes rent, and having gashed themselves with grain offerings and frankincense in their hand, to bring to the house of Adonai. So Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, went out from Mizpah to meet them, weeping all along as he went, and he came to meet them. He said to them, "Come to Gedaliah, son of Ahikam." Yet it was that as soon as they came within of the city, that Ishmael son of Nethaniah and the men with them slaughtered them within the cistern pit. However, 10 men were found among them that said to Ishmael, "Don't kill us, for we have hidden stores in the field, wheat, barley, oil, and honey." So he held off and did not kill them along with their companions. Now the cistern where Ishmael cast all the corpses of the men whom he killed, because they were on Gedaliah's side, was the one which King Asa had made for fear of King Baasa of Israel. Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, filled it with the slain. Then Ishmael carried away captive all the rest of the people that were in Mizpah, including the king's daughters, all the people who were left in Mizpah, over whom Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, had put under the charge of Gedaliah, son of Ahikam. Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, carried them away captive and set off to cross over to Ammon's children. But Jonathan, son of Kareah, and all the commanders of the forces that were with him heard about all the evil that Ishmael, son of Nethaniah had done. So they took all the men and went to fight with Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, and found him by the great pool of Gibeon. Now, when all the people who were with Ishmael saw Jonathan, son of Kareah, and all the commanders of the forces that were with him, they were glad. So all the people that Ishmael had carried away captive from Mizpah turned around and came back and went over to Jonathan, son of Kareah. But Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, escaped from Jonathan with 8 men and went to Ammon's children. Then Jonathan, son of Kareah, and all the commanders of the forces that were with him took all the remnant of the people whom he had rescued from Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, from Mizpah, after he had murdered Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, the men, the soldiers, women, children, and court officials whom he had brought back from Gibeon, and they left and stayed at Shimham's lodge, which is near Bethlehem, in order to go on to enter Egypt, away from the Chaldeans, for they were afraid of them, since Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, had killed Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, whom the king of Babylon had appointed over the land. And that's the end of chapter 41. Chapter 42. Warning against flight to Egypt. Then all the commanders of the forces, Jonathan, son of Kareah, Jezaniah, son of Hoshaiah, And all the people from the least to the greatest approached and said to the prophet Jeremiah, "Please let our petition be presented before you and pray to Adonai on God, your God, on our behalf for all this remnant, for we who are left are but a few out of many. So you are seeing with your own eyes that Adonai your God may tell us the way we should go and what we should do." Then Jeremiah the prophet said to them, "I have heard you. Agreed. I will pray to Adonai your God according to your words, and it will be that every word Adonai will answer you, I will declare it to you. I will not keep a word from you." Then they said to Jeremiah, "Let Adonai be a true and faithful witness against us if we do not act in accord with every word that Adonai your God sends you to us. Whether it be good or evil, we will obey the voice of Adonai our God, to whom we are sending you, so that it may go well with us when we obey the voice of Adonai our God." Now, it was at the end of 10 days that the word of Adonai came to Jeremiah. Then he called Johanan, son of Kareah, and all the commanders of the forces that were with him, and all the people, and all the where am I here? And all the people from the least to the greatest, and said to them, "Thus says Adonai, the God of Israel, to whom you sent me to present your supplication before him. If you will still stay in this land, then I will build you up and not tear you down, and I will plant you and not uproot you, for I will relent concerning the calamity that I have done to you. Do not be afraid of the king of Babylon, whom you dread. Do not be afraid of him. It is a declaration of Adonai, for I am with you to save you and deliver you from his hand. I will also show you compassion, and he will have compassion on you, and restore you to your own soil. But if you say, 'We will not stay in this land,' so that you do not obey the voice of Adonai, saying, 'No, instead we'll go to the land of Egypt, where we will see no war or hear the sound of a shofar or hunger or food, and live there.' Now therefore hear the word of Adonai, O remnant of Judah. Thus says Adonai Sabaoth, the God of Israel, if you really set your faces to enter Egypt and go to sojourn there, then it will come to pass that the sword which you fear will overtake you there in the land of Egypt, and the famine about which you are anxious will follow hard after you there in Egypt, and there you will die. So will it be for all the people who set their faces to enter Egypt to sojourn there. They will die by the sword, by famine, and by plague, so none of them will remain or escape from the calamity that I will bring on them. For thus says Adonai Sabaoth, the God of Israel, as my anger and my fury were poured out on the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so my fury will be poured out on you. If you will enter Egypt, you will be an execration, a horror, a curse, and a disgrace, and you will never see this place again. Adonai has spoken concerning you, O remnant of Judah. Do not go to Egypt. Know for sure that I have forewarned you this day, for you have led your own souls in error, since it was you who sent me to Adonai your God, saying, "Pray to Adonai our God on our behalf in accord with all that Adonai our God will say. So declare to us, and we will do it." So I have this day declared it to you, but you will not obey the voice of Adonai your God in anything for which he has sent me to you. Now therefore know for sure that you will die by the sword, by famine, and by plague in the place whither you desired to go to sojourn there. Chapter 44. The Chaldeans invade Egypt. But when Jeremiah had made an end of telling all the people all the words of Adonai, their God, all their words for which Adonai, their God, had sent him to them, then Azariah, son of Hoshai, Hanan, son of Kareah, and all the insolent men responded, saying to Jeremiah, "You are telling a lie. Adonai, our God, has not sent you to say, 'You must not go to Egypt to sojourn there.' Rather, Baruch, son of Neriah, is inciting you against us to give us over to the hand of the Chaldeans, so they may put us to death or carry us away as captives to Babylon." So Johanan, now I might have said that wrong earlier. Johanan, Johanan, son of Kareah, Kareah, all the commanders of the forces and all the people did not obey the voice of Adonai, stayed in the land of Judah. So Johanan, son of Kareah, and all the commanders of the forces took the entire remnant of Judah who had returned from all the nations where they had been driven to dwell in the land of Judah, the men, the women, the children, the king's daughters, everyone that Nebuchadnezzar, the captain of the guard, left with Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, son of Shaphan, as well as Jeremiah the prophet and Baruch, son of Neriah. And they went to the land of Egypt, for they did not obey the voice of Adonai. When they arrived at Tahpanhes, Tahpanhes, the word of Adonai came to Jeremiah in Tahpanhes, saying, "Take some large stores in your hand and hide them in the mortar and the brickwork at the entrance of Pharaoh's palaces at Tahpanhes, in the sight of the men of Judah. Then say to them, Thus says Adonai Sabaoth, the God of Israel, I am about to send for and bring King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, my servant, and I will set his throne over these stones which I have hid, and he will spread the royal pavilion over them. Yes, he will come and he will strike the land of Egypt, those for death to death, those for exile to exile, those for sword to the sword. I will also set fire to the houses of Egypt's gods. He will burn them and carry them off. He will wrap himself with the land of Egypt as a shepherd wraps himself up with his garment. Then he will depart from there victoriously. He will also shatter the pillars of the temple of the sun in the land of Egypt, while houses of the gods of Egypt he will burn with fire." And that is the end of chapter 43. Chapter 44. Calamity in Egypt. The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the Jews dwelling in the land of Egypt at Migdol, at Tahpanhes, at Noph, and in the region of Pathros, saying, Thus says Adonai Sabaoth, the God of Israel, you have seen all the calamity that I brought on Jerusalem and all the cities of Judah. Behold, today they are a ruin, and no one lives in them, because of their wickedness which they committed to provoke me by continuing to burn sacrifices for and serve other gods whom they had not known, nor they, nor you, nor your fathers. Yet I sent you all my servants, the prophets, sending them early and often, saying, Oh, do not do this loathsome thing that I hate. But they did not listen or incline their ear to turn from their wickedness, to stop making offering to other gods. Therefore my fury and mine anger was poured out and blazed in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, so they are waste and a ruin as it is today. So now, thus says Adonai Elohim Sabaoth, the God of Israel, why are you committing this great evil against your own souls? You cut off from yourselves man and woman, infant and nursing child from the midst of Judah, to leave yourself without a remnant. You are provoking me with the works of your hands, burning incense to other gods in the land of Egypt, where you have come to dwell, so that you will be cut off and become a curse and a disgrace among all the nations of the earth. Have you forgotten the evils of your fathers, the evils of the kings of Judah, the evils of their wives, and your own evils and the evils of your wives, which were committed in the land of Judah and the streets of Jerusalem? They have not become contrite even to this day, nor have they feared nor walked in my Torah, my statutes that I set before you and before your fathers. Therefore, thus says Adonai Sabaoth, the God of Israel, I will soon set my face against you for calamity, to cut off all Judah. I will take the remnant of Judah who set their faces to enter the land of Egypt, to sojourn there, and they will all be consumed, falling in the land of Egypt by the sword and by famine. They will die from the least to the greatest by the sword and by famine, and they will be an execration and a horror, a curse, and a disgrace. So I will punish those dwelling in the land of Egypt, as I have punished Jerusalem, by the sword, by famine, and by plague. So none of the remnant of Judah entering the land of Egypt to sojourn there will escape or remain to return to the land of Judah when they are longing with their soul to return to live there, for none will return except as refugees. Then all the men who knew that their wives were burning incense to other gods along with other women that stood by, a large assembly, with all the people dwelling in Pathros in the land of Egypt, responded to Jeremiah, saying, As for the word that you spoke to us in the name of Adonai, we are not going to listen to you. Instead, we will definitely do every word as went out of your mouth, burning incense to the Queen of Heaven and pouring out drink offerings to her, just as we did, we and our fathers, our kings and our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then we had plenty of food, were well off, and saw no calamity. But since we stopped burning incense to the Queen of Heaven and pouring out drink offerings to her, we have lacked everything and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. Moreover, when we were burning incense to the Queen of Heaven and pouring out drink offerings to her, when we made cakes for her in her image and poured out drink offerings to her, were we without husbands? Then Jeremiah said to all the people, to the men and women, to all the people that were giving him such an answer, saying, The incense burning that you offered in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, you and your fathers, your kings, your officials, the people of the land, Adonai did remember them. They did come into his heart. Then Adonai could no longer endure it because of the evil of your deeds, because of the abominations that you committed. So your land has become a wasteland, a desolation, and a curse, without inhabitant as it is this day, because you have burned incense, because you have sinned against Adonai, and have not listened to the voice of Adonai, nor walked in his Torah, nor in his statutes, nor in his testimonies. That is why this calamity has befallen you, as it is this day. Moreover, Jeremiah said to all the people and to all the women, Hear the word of Adonai, all Judah that are in the land of Egypt. Thus says Adonai Sabaoth, the God of Israel, saying, You and your wives have spoken with your mouths and fulfilled it with your hands, saying, We will definitely perform our vows that we have vowed to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven and to pour out drink offerings to her. You surely will conform your vows, and surely will perform your vows. Therefore hear the word of Adonai, all Judah dwelling in the land of Egypt. Behold, I have sworn by my great name, declares Adonai, nevermore will my name be invoked in the mouth of anyone of Judah and all the land of Egypt, saying, As my Lord Adonai lives, here I am watching over them for evil and not for good. All the people of Judah who are in the land of Egypt will be consumed by the sword and by famine until there is an end of them. Those escaping the sword will return out of the land of Egypt into the land of Judah, only few in number. Then the remnant of Judah who entered the land to escape the land of Egypt to sojourn there, will know whose word stands up, mine or theirs. It is a declaration of Adonai. Moreover, this will be a sign to you. I will visit punishment on you in this place so that you may know that my words will surely stand against you as calamity. Thus says Adonai, Soon I will give Pharaoh, Hophra, king of Egypt, into the hand of his enemies and into the hand of them who seek his life, just as I gave King Zedekiah of Judah into the hand of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, his enemy, who was seeking his life. And that's the end of chapter 44. I just want to address this Queen of Heaven that they're talking about. It is probably the goddess, the Queen of Heaven, whose worship Jeremiah so vehemently opposed. May have been possibly Ashtarti. The name of the goddess is known from the northwestern Semitic regions in Mesopotamia. Could have been also just another name for Ishtar, which seems to be one of the biggest. Yeah, Ishtar. Um, it's just another name to Ishtar, Isis, um, and I think that's who that is being referred to. So that's just, a pagan goddess that they were burning incense to. There is no goddess of heaven. no queen of heaven. There's no queen of heaven at all. There's God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. So woe to them, oi to them. Chapter 45, message for Baruch. The word that Jeremiah the prophet spoke to Baruch, son of Neriah, when he wrote these words in a scroll from the mouth of Jeremiah in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah, saying, Thus says Adonai, the son, the God of Israel, concerning you, Baruch. You said, Oi to me now, for Adonai has added sorrow to my pain. I am worn out with my groaning, and I find no rest. Thus shall you say to him, Thus says Adonai, Behold, what I have built I will tear down, and what I have planted I will uproot, the whole land. But you are expecting great things for yourself. Seek no more, for I am about to bring calamity on all flesh. It is a declaration of Adonai, but I will grant you your soul as spoil in all places where you may go. Chapter 46, Prophecy against Egypt. The word of Adonai came to the prophet Jeremiah concerning the nations for Egypt, concerning the army of Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, which was by the river Euphrates, Carchemish, which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, defeated in the 4th year, Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah. Arrange breastplate and shield, advance to battle, harness the horses and mount a horseman. Take your position with helmets, polish the spears, put on armor. What have I seen them? Why have I seen them? They are shattered, retreating, their warriors beaten, fleeing for cover, no turning back, terror on every side. It is a declaration of Adonai. The swift cannot flee, nor the warrior escape. In the north, by the river Euphrates, they stumbled and fell. Who is this rising like the Nile, like the rivers whose waters churn? Egypt rises like the Nile, like the rivers whose waters churn. He says, I will rise up. I will cover the earth. I will destroy the city and its inhabitants. Prance, you horses, and rush madly, you chariots. Let the warriors go out, push and put, grasping the shield, Lydians grasping and bending the bow. For that day belongs to my Lord Adonai Sabaoth, as a day of vengeance, to avenge himself against his foes. The sword will devour and be satisfied, and will drink its fill of their blood, for it will be sacrificed to my Lord Adonai Sabaoth. In the northern land, by the river Euphrates, go up into Gilead and get balm, O virgin daughter of Egypt. In vain you may use many medicines, there is no cure for you. Nations have heard of your shame, and your outcry fills the earth. For warrior stumbles over warrior, both fall down together. And I'm going to pause this now and come back with the next part.